Welcome to the first ever tuned tuner car shootout. We decided that this year, rather than simply drive and show the cars, we'd put them head to head on a closed road and a racetrack. We brought 5 tuned cars between $30,000 and $300,000, and we're gonna duke it out to find which tuner did it best. I'll be testing how the cars drive on the street with a closed section of the stunning Highway 74 south of Palm Springs, while Rolex GT champion Lee Keen will push the cars to their limits at Chuckwalla Valley Raceway, a 2.7-mile, 17-turn road course. Lee and I will then rank the cars based on style, value, drivability on the road and at the limit, and most importantly, lap time. For all the categories but lap time, there can be no ties, meaning we rank the cars in each category and assign points according to rank. For this competition, there are only 2 rules. The car must be street legal, registered and insured for road use, and the car must run a DOT road legal set of tires. In second place by lap time, HG Motorsports of San Diego, California has brought a 2009 Nissan GTR with an array of track-focused modifications. I know what you're thinking here. Bringing a modified GTR to a tuner car shootout is like bringing a howitzer to a wrestling match. But let's be fair, this is a 7-year-old GTR, not a brand new one, and it isn't even the most expensive car in the competition, not even close. HG Motorsports has prepped this car to be something you can drive to the track, lap all day long, and then drive home again. The drivetrain has only simple modifications, an exhaust and a conversion to flex fuel good for 600 wheel horsepower. It has upgraded Brembo race spec brakes, JRZ adjustable coilovers, oil and differential coolers, a roll cage and racing seat, and an APR functional aero package. And that's about it. Honestly, these cars don't need much to go from fast to obscene. When you are starting with a Nissan GTR, you're already so far ahead of the track car game, it's not even funny. But there is room for improvement. There's always room for improvement if you're willing to make some concessions in the form of money and or comfort. Rather than make it 2,000 horsepower like those crazy drag cars we see, this one's running a very mild upgrade on stock turbos with about 550 horsepower at the wheels. It's got the basic bolt-ons, the intake, exhaust, and the aftermarket tune. But with all the car's fancy stuff that it comes with, you really don't need insane horsepower in these cars to set a really strong lap time. Instead, what HG focused on was chassis, suspension, and durability. They've replaced all the radiators and all the heat exchangers with better quality items, so that whereas most GTRs at a hot track day have to cool it off after 4 or 5 laps, this one was designed to be able to handle a full 30-minute track session of hard running with air conditioning. Oh, how I love air conditioning when we are in the desert. They've done some nice touches like these little shifter paddles, which I'd call them little shifter paddles. They're actually quite big and they allow me to shift mid-corner. I can reach it from almost 90 degrees of steering, which in a GTR you can shift mid-corner without upsetting the balance of the car. It has some aerodynamic upgrades. It's got a front splitter and some canards. The splitter, by the way, has seen better days. It's clearly been used. And it's got an adjustable rear GT-style wing. Of course, we've got this haloed out seat and these Takata harnesses, which I'm not so sure about given the company's reputation with airbags. Nevertheless, this car seems very sorted. It's achieved a harmonious balance between power, braking, handling, aerodynamics, and yes, comfort. Although this seat doesn't fit me, apparently the owner is nice and snug. I don't love how these cars sound. They're just, it's not a pleasant sound to me, but there is no doubt the effectiveness of this powertrain. The twin-turbo V6 delivers power long and strong, as they say. These things don't run out of legs until like almost 200 miles an hour. These are heavy cars, they're big cars, but the faster you go, the more they shrink around you. So much grip at the front, and room for even more. Apparently it was turned into a track car fairly early in its life, and has spent most of its life at the track. You know, this car may be soulless, it may have a lot of computers controlling what's going on, but it's fast as hell, and fast is always exciting. It's hard to believe that you could call something like this a value proposition, but if you showed up with this car at pretty much any track day in the country, you are going to be the fastest guy there. Changes gears so fast. These gearboxes are a little clunky and clattery when you're going through traffic, but when you are on it, that gearbox is right there with you. But I really like the power delivery. I really like the brake feel. The brake starts working the second you touch that pedal, and then it gets progressively more and more powerful the harder you hit it. It's a really nice, predictable brake pedal feel. Not too much effort required either. There's not as much steering feel as some other cars. It's a little bit video gamey, but the grip is simply undeniable. Such fast cars. I get in them every time, and then I go home and I don't want one. They're a little big and boxy and Japanese high-functiony for me. As a recipe for speed, undeniable tool for the job. Now, while it is mostly true that almost anyone with a little bit of practice can set a pretty impressive lap time in one of these, when you put a pro behind the wheel, the lap times go from merely impressive to, oh God. What a nasty car this is. There's simply no questioning the capability of a car like this. It's insanely fast. It turns in as hard as anything out there. It has probably the best brakes of anything in the competition. It rides well, the steering is incredibly light and direct, and racing seat aside, it manages to find a balance between all-out track performance and street ability. We'll give it a 9 out of 15 for street manners, but only a 2 out of 5 for style because it's a GTR. Lee has a lot of experience in modified GTRs, so I have a feeling when he gets this thing out on the track, he's going to be able to put down a really impressive lap time.
It's a GTR, so it's safe to say that it's going to be fast and it's going to be good. It's just the way it is. Everybody knows that. Your Uber driver will pick you up and he can be like in a Toyota Matrix or something, and you know, you can talk on cars and say, GTR, how are those things so fast? I mean, everybody knows the GTR is fast. Tons of forward bite from the four-wheel drive. You can really just mat it and let the diffs work themselves out and just do a little correction of the steering and you'll be all good. It's crazy to think that in GTR world, it's not a lot of power, but in everyday world, this is a lot of power. The acceleration is pretty amazing. This particular build, you know, is not crazy power. It still has stock turbos, but it has bigger brakes and it has some nice suspension pieces. It has a little bit of aero, and they have a lot of cooling, which is key, especially like a day-to-day. Nice feel on the brakes, slows the car down well. I mean, this is a lot of weight and a lot of power, a lot of speed to try to slow down. Just waiting on the front end, just a little bit too much. When I can finally get to power, the diffs help out and rotate the car, but I just need kind of more front end in general. There was a little bit too much push, more push than I would like. For him, maybe it's, you know, comfortable. It's still fast, but I like a car that's a GTR that's gonna rotate more than that car was. But you know, that's a couple of easy things, bigger front tires and some minor adjustments on the suspension, and it puts the balance right where it needs to be. A little bit too much push there, too much steering wheel to try to get it to turn. But once it rotates, it's really nice. Right here, I can get it to rotate pretty good in third gear. This particular car is really well balanced. It has all the proper cooling stuff to keep it cool so you can hot lap. So it's a nice build. It's a fun car. You can do more than one lap in it. It's really hard to go slow in a GTR, and they are relatively easy to drive. I mean, 9/10 is really easy to do in a GTR, and that's gonna be really fast around most every racetrack. I used to own a GTR, like that's how the GTR is. But it's cool, like if you wanna go fast and you wanna have a car that's fun and cool, there's fun factor there, there's cool factor. So a GTR, I mean, it checks all the boxes and relatively not that expensive.
How'd it go?
This is gonna sound weird, but what I like most about this car is it doesn't have 900 horsepower. It actually, you know, is balanced. It has the brakes and it has the suspension and the shocks and everything. And it's still stock turbo, so it doesn't have crazy power. So it's really well balanced. It's a GTR that not only you can do one fast lap in, you can do multiple fast laps in.
Was it consistent over the laps?
Yeah, really consistent.
At what power level are these things like not drivable anymore?
I mean, these chassis can accept 8. I've driven on street tires 800 wheel. Yeah. So you can turn them up. So when you're talking about 500 wheel, it's like a really, really big, fast Spec Miata at that point. I mean, it has everything it needs. It has the balance with the chassis, the brakes, and the power to get around the racetrack.
What's really amazing about this Nissan GTR is how few aftermarket parts it really took to get where it is. A new set of tires and wheels, some upgraded cooling for hot track days, a basic bolt-on tune, roll cage, and wing. There's no built motor here, no special transmission, just a used GTR with some intelligent track prep leading to a blistering 1 minute 56-second lap time around Chuckwalla. That's good enough for 44 points out of 50 on the track. As a road car, the GTR suffers a bit because of its racing seat, roll cage, and a gearbox that's clunky when cold, but it still proved enjoyable, predictable, and very fast on the street, earning 9 points for drivability on the road. For drivability at the limit, Lee also awarded it 9 points out of 15, not because of anything truly negative, just because 2 of our other competitors were really that good. The GTR is big, heavy, and although it's more than competent at setting a strong lap time, it lacks some of the feedback offered by other cars. For style, it only earns 2 out of 5 points because it's a GTR and there's nothing you can do to a GTR to make it pretty. Value is calculated by taking the lap time and factoring in the cost of the car as compared to the Mustang, the cheapest car on track. The Mustang's price and lap time was the baseline. Every car after that was judged on how much more it cost and how many seconds faster it went than the Mustang. It earns 12 out of a possible 15 points on the value scale. It's expensive to buy and build, but that expense returns a healthy dose of real speed on the racetrack. HG Motorsports gets extra off-the-record credit for prepping and bringing this car to our shootout from San Diego in literally 6 hours' notice. So we thank them for that and present a final score of 76 points out of a possible 100, moving HG Motorsports into first place and bumping the Mustang, NSX, and R32 down into second, third, and fourth in our competition. Next time, your overall winner.